Right, the next video is all about making a simple hollow bead. And I see from the poll that we took, some people had issues with their hollows. So we'll see if we can clean up some of that issue, technical problem. Okay, so if you're new to making hollows or you're having trouble making hollows, please, please, please start small. Don't make a big one because it's usually disastrous. So these two little beads, these little baby beads that I start out with here, are maybe 5/8 of an inch apart. So that's a nice size to work with when you're learning and developing your skills. So I'm going to build my glass vertically. And a rule of thumb that I like to use is that I build it about half the distance up to the full distance between the two beads. Okay? So the discs don't get any more vertical than, say, half the distance between them, or if you really want to go to town, the full distance. But I say half the distance is good. Then once you're done building them vertically, then you're going to start to build it to the side so that you begin to move those discs closer together. So that's one thing, how far apart they should be. Number two, make sure that your rod is as hot as you can get it. Anybody who's taken a class with Lauren Stump hears him say the phrase, screaming hot. So you want that glass to be so, so hot that it just flows on to the previously applied glass like lava flowing down the mountainside. And what this does is that it closes up any pinholes that might occur. Pinholes are what deflate, unseen pinholes are what deflate your hollow. And if you lay on your glass in a cold temperature, and that's all relative, of course, that's where the pinholes get created because the glass does not stick to the glass that you already put on. So it's got to be so, so hot that it just blobs on there. Okay, so I've moved these two structures close to one another, and now what I'm doing is sort of filling in the gaps between the two where they haven't touched before. And at this point, you're kind of checking for holes. Holes can be distinguished as a black area that is surrounded by red hot glass, and that's what I'm looking for right now. And I'm just kissing the flame, just touching. I just want to get that surface glass red hot so I can pick out a hole if I need to. And you can fill it up either with some glass from your glass rod, or if there's a lot of glass around the hole, you can take a tool and kind of push that glass and fill in the hole just by pushing excess glass into the hole. So I've determined that I don't have any holes in here. So what I'm doing right now is a very important step, and I'm gonna pause this for a second. I am holding that mandrel very, very parallel to the floor. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I'm turning it away from me in a very slow, deliberate, consistent speed. Okay. Number three, I'm just kissing the outside of the glass with the flame. I am not immersing the entire bead in the flame. That's deadly. You don't want to do that because what happens then is your glass heats up, gets out of control. So sometimes I usually pretty much keep it on the equator of the bead. Now I'm moving it up into the cooler part of the flame because I think most of my glass has been smoothed out now. The number one thing you don't ever want to do is heat the hole directly. Don't heat the hole directly. Heat only the outer circumference of the bead, or the equator, if you want to use that analogy. Once that's done and everything's been blended in, you can shape it on your marver, roll it, make it symmetrical, whatever makes you happy. But I have applied the glass from the rod in an extremely consistent way. If you dab it, if you blob the glass onto the mandrel as you're making these discs, that's when you wind up with thick and thin areas, which result in, number one, an asymmetrical air hole on the inside, or thick and thin areas on the surface which will eventually thin out and pop in some areas. Of course, that's never happened to me. I'm just saying it could happen. I'm just kidding. So there's a very nice looking hollow. The walls are consistent. They're not thick and thin. They're just the same size all the way around. The air hole is consistent all the way on the inside. It's looking good. I'm checking it, admiring it. Now I'm ready to anneal it. I'm going to put it back in the flame for a second though.